Stiller. Jenner steals it. And he's away. Lewis Roberts-Thompson, Daniel Merritt. Roberts-Thompson holds his ground. Sold the dummy. Awesome.
Brucey, I'm tipping from your reaction that we don't see a lot of LRT just ducking around players and kicking goals like that.
Oh, look, he's had a terrific night tonight. Great coaching move putting him there, but certainly the smell cow's not normally in the repertoire of Lewis Roberts-Thompson.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Swans Bigfooty Podcast. My name is Bonz. We are coming off a 71-point win over St Kilda, or to make it more accurate, Lance Franklin has outscored St Kilda off his own boot by 2 points. Today joining me will be Punts.
How are you guys?
Swansrule100.
Hello everyone.
And Robbieando.
Hey everyone.
Okay, Swansrule, do you want to take us away and give us your thoughts on the game?
Well, St Kilda, really, they are not much of a team, so good to get a 71-point win, I suppose. That second quarter was probably what cost us a 100-point win, but really the game was about Franklin and what was the hashtag Team Buddy or whatever they had going. His dad was going off his tree every time he got a goal, and they showed a bit of him. He was a pretty excitable man. So clearly Franklin was pretty awesome. It would have been nice to see him slot the 10 because no one's done that for us since Tony Lockett, I don't think. So
Tony Lockett, round 16, 1998.
Yeah, against Melbourne, wasn't it?
Melbourne.
No, anyway, it would have been good, but you know, it was hard to go past Franklin. I thought, given Kennedy went off, I thought Parker stood up pretty well in the midfield. McVeigh was pretty clean with his possession. Rowe went off half back because continues to be a revelation, and the confidence he has in his game now is just awesome. He got the most possessions he's ever got in a game, I believe, and just the way he does those little spoils and the run he's got back into his game, it's just, it's been wonderful. And I think Punts called for it about 12 months ago, so you got to tip your hat off to the great man calling for that. And then Biggs, his other project player, how good was Biggs in his first game for the year? He's probably arguably been wasted in the knee for. I know some people said he's tackling needs work. I'll have to have a look at that, but I thought his disposal was so crisp and clean, and he racks up the ball. He just knows where to find it, so that's what impressed me. The other one who flew under the radar a bit was Tippett. I thought he actually started moving a bit better as the game went, and he gets continuous game time, which is ominous for other teams coming into the finals, but really hard to read much into that. We fought the game out probably better than we do sometimes, but St Kilda are nothing more than witches' hats. Nick Riewoldt was probably the only player I'd look twice at. I mean, we don't really need another tall forward, so not much to say. Just move on and roll on, bring on the finals. Hopefully we just roll through the Doggies and the Tigers in the meantime.
The players I did want to bring up just from the game, obviously, besides Buddy, and I've got a little comment for him at the end. I thought Jake Lloyd actually had his best game for us on the weekend. He was really, really good. 21 disposals at a 91% efficiency rate, 10 marks, 7 tackles. That's a good game in anyone's books. And the other player I was really happy, he seemed to get into a bit of form in his second half, Dan Hannebery.
Yeah.
He needed to get a bit of game time to really get running, and against Port Adelaide last week, having Kane Corns run straight to is always a bit of a problem. But Lil Canners was pretty good on the weekend, and if you can keep on improving, we're going to have a bloody good midfield come finals time. The only real players I do want to mention, once again, thanks to Biggs, did a fantastic job on Hayes, and I think we may have to get Punts up there making selections at the match table. He's called Rowan, he's called Biggs now. Coach Punts.
Cheers.
And the last one, Lance Franklin, 9 goals, 4.58. St Kilda, 8 goals, 8.56.
The only two negatives I didn't mention, actually, sorry, just to cut in again, was I'm not sold on Dean Towers at the AFL level. I don't know what you guys think. And Sam Reid didn't even catch up to Kennedy's possessions after he subbed off. He needs to do more or have a different role. I'm still big on him going down back, but I'm not sure what he's out there to do, but it's clearly not to get the ball. I'd be interested to hear what you guys thought of Towers, though.
Robbieando, your thoughts?
I thought Towers, had a sloppy start to the game, but as the game went on, he actually got more involved, and his possessions were a bit more cleaner, and he used his pace more. So I thought it was obviously his better game for us, but he had to work into the game. Obviously, he wouldn't be a player to rely on in a final, but it was a good game for him and one that he can use to work on. As for Reid, I felt like, yes, he'd be more useful down back, but yesterday, St Kilda, he wouldn't be useful down there against St Kilda because when was the ball ever down there? And that meant his role was really as a decoy to help, release Franklin and Tippett. So I don't think he was there for possessions. He was there to really to stretch St Kilda's backline, which I think he did do his role in that sense.
But St Kilda don't have any tall backs, and the ball gets out of there so quick. It feels like Sam Reid obviously has potential, and I like him as a player, but it feels like every week we've got a different excuse for why he didn't get the ball, and to me, he's shown all the signs of being a good defender. But he's just not. We don't need a fourth decoy down there after Goods, Tippett, and Franklin. It's just my opinion, but I think he's been mucked around with his role in the team a bit too, with the ruck chop out and everything. But he's such a good mark. Put him on someone down back.
Okay, Punts, what are your thoughts on Reid's game and the Swans on the weekend?
Yeah, I don't agree with the decoy role. I reckon that's absolutely ridiculous. I think why pay someone? I know it's a team game, but why pay someone all this money and have a guy running around as a decoy? If that's the case, you might as well pay another 6'4" bloke that can't get a kick at VFL level just to run around and take a defender. If that's the case, I don't believe in that sort of stuff. I think Reid needs to. He definitely needs to get into the game more. I know they look for Tippett and Buddy more, but he sometimes yesterday I watched him a lot yesterday, and he didn't really present up the ground. He just looks like he doesn't want to get in the other guy's way. To me, like he just wants to sort of stay out of there and that sort of stuff. And maybe his confidence is a little bit down, and maybe it comes better when one of them aren't in the side because he becomes more of a focal point up forward, and they do try and kick it to him more. So I don't really agree with the decoy role. I don't think he'd agree with that either. I don't know if he wants to be running around for the next 10 years, being called a decoy. I sure wouldn't. And if that's the case, he might as well go and move clubs and be a focal point at another club if that's the way the team success looks at it as that he's the decoy sort of thing. I know Goods didn't get much of it yesterday, but Goods didn't play a hell of a lot forward yesterday. That he was actually on the ball for a majority of the second half, and I think he only got maybe just over 10 possessions. I don't have the stats in front of me, but
12 disposals for Goods.
Yeah, and he played a lot permanently on the ball. So I know when he was forward, they didn't really look for him. When they did, it bounced off his chest. Besides that, I thought Pikey. I know it was only Billy Longer. I think Pikey had a pretty good game. Rowan again. I thought he seems to be every week just getting confidence, and he seems to be taking him on a bit, which is really good to see. He that run through the middle that he did, and sometimes I think he's running too fast to he shanks a couple of kicks, but he's bloody unbelievably quick, and some of his spoils as well yesterday were right in front of me, and he just to come across a couple of packs was just really good. So his confidence and building every week, and I think it could be a little bit of an X factor come finals. I thought it was pretty much the younger guys yesterday that really stood up. Obviously McVeigh again played well, I thought, and I thought, as you said, Lloyd and just the bigs, just the younger guys. Harry Cunningham, I know you didn't see a lot of it. Just his defensive pressure was really good yesterday, and something we might have lacked. With Benny McGlynn out of the side, he sort of stood up in that area. I just thought the younger guys really stood up yesterday, which was good to see, and just shows to even though it was only St Kilda, it just shows that we we have some pretty good depth, and hopefully we can get back Benny McGlynn and guys like that for the finals. But just yesterday showed that our depth's pretty good. If you can bring in guys like Biggs and who have been playing NEFL all year, and it's a pretty big step up from NEFL obviously to AFL level, and still have 25 possessions off the halfback flank is pretty good, and kudos to him. And obviously Jakey Lloyd, he's been subbed the last couple of weeks, and to come on yesterday and play a full game after only playing limited time the last 2 weeks and rack up in the 20s, and to do that's another kudos. So he's obviously the perfect sub, and to me he cemented his spot. I don't really care who plays well in the twos, they're racking up 40 possessions or not. There's no way you can drop a kid that's played pretty much the majority of the whole year and bring in somebody else. So kudos to him too. And obviously Lance Franklin, 9 goals is pretty outstanding, so you can't go past giving him a mention also.
In regards to
Franklin's game was good, and the depth of youth was very good to see. Biggs, we all know what he is capable of after he's entered the last year. It's just a case of getting him onto the senior list at some point in the year. And I think they were just waiting for a spot to open up so they could have another ruckman on the list, because you don't want to be in a case where you have a ruckman fall down and you're exposed in that department. So I think that was the real issue of getting him on the list. So it's good to see him get a game and just really carry on where he left off last year. The other one was Lloyd. If he doesn't get Rising Star this week, I don't know when he's ever going to get it, because obviously he can't. He's not going to get it after this year, but his 5th game over 20 possessions this year already, and he's been subbed the last 2 weeks. He's just really added that extra dimension of pace and contested ball that you just love in a midfielder, and it's really made a player like Ryan O'Keefe and Tom Mitchell kind of, you're not missing that type of player, but come finals, as a sub, he would be a very good person to have come on late in the game. And the other ones were I really did like Tippett's game, where early in the game he was just. You knew he was moving up and down the ground, so you knew he wasn't affected by the injury, and he was getting that match fitness. And you knew once they started looking other than Buddy, he would pop up with a few goals late in the game, which he did.
Okay, now we may as well go on to the next really big topic that came out on the weekend. The apparent hamstring tightness to Josh Kennedy, pretty much. Now, Josh Kennedy he came off at the end of the first quarter. It didn't really seem like he did anything, and John Longmire talked at the end of the match. Punts, you want to go over what John Longmire said?
Just pretty much he said that it was precautionary, and not so much precautionary, that Josh felt slight tightness at the end of the first quarter. They put him on for the start of the second quarter, and he didn't think that he could go on any further. And obviously he knew that himself, that if it was going to go or not, sort of thing. And obviously I was at the game, so I didn't actually see on the TV what if they put ice on it straight away, or how the medicos were acting and how him himself were acting. So I can't really comment on his actions, if he looked disappointed or not. So they're saying that it could be, strain grade 1. I don't know. You're going to have to wait to the scans. That's about as much as you could probably go to. Don't know.
Well, in regards to the icing and the compression bandage, you did put a bit of ice on it straight after he felt the tightness, but by the end of the second quarter and in the third quarter, he was walking around just with a compression bandage. Now, I've done my hamstring on a few occasions. I've done both 2 grade 1 tears and a grade 2 tear before. I can tell you this, even if it's a grade 1 tear, you feel it go off. It feels like you've got a small rubber band snapping in your hamstring. If he had snapped it, he would have pulled up and felt it immediately, and they wouldn't have stopped icing it after 20 minutes. Guaranteed, he would have stayed on ice for 3 to 4 hours after the injury had gone through to try and keep the blood flow just isolated there. From what it sounds like and what John Longmire said after the game, it does seem like tightness, and they were just being precautionary. I mean, if your best player goes to you and says, look, my hamstring's feeling a bit tight, you're 3 weeks out of finals, you're not going to be risking him. Am I correct?
Oh, hell yeah.
Exactly. There is no... Look, in all honesty, we probably won't play him this week. Hamstring tightness can take a week or two to go away. And even if it is a tear, it's only going to be 1 or 2 fibers, which is a 1 to 2 week injury anyway. He'll be back up and running by finals, so we don't have too much to worry about. It may affect his Brownlow votes, but in all honesty, do we want a premiership or do we want an extra Brownlow at the club?
I'll take the premiership, thanks, for $200.
Okay, anyways, Punts, I trust you're at the reserves game. Do you want to give us your review of the match?
Yeah, I went down, obviously was at the reserves game, and they were playing GWS, which they're sitting on top, and Sydney was sitting third. One game off GWS, but a fair bit of percentage. First couple of quarters, GWS got out to a pretty healthy lead. I think they might have been 30-odd points up at one stage. And the third quarter and the fourth quarter, Mitchell and Membray really stood up and started taking some grabs. And Mitchell, we just started getting a lot of clearances. And obviously Tommy Walsh was again another really good game from Tommy. As I said, he didn't just defend. He defended well. He ran from the back line. He's kicking and everything was just. Yeah, he's sort of a bit of a star at the moment in that side, which is a little bit funny to say. I know people say he hasn't really been playing on anyone decent, but you can only play on who there's there. So, but it wasn't just that. He's run and carry. He's sort of a totally different player than I've seen him. Obviously, everyone's seen him at AFL level, and he sort of looked lost up in the forward line. But sometimes the back line, you can when you're following someone around, it's a lot easier. So, good on him for doing that. And Henny and Mills were outstanding. They're just class. They're just, Mitchell's your in and under type and get it out. Doesn't have a whole, hell of a lot of class. Mitchell, that's my opinion. But Heaney and Mills, he just gets it out to them. And Heaney looks like, left foot, right footer. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And they're both, which was surprising, they're both physically big boys. Like you could put him, in an AFL jumper now, and you wouldn't say, oh, he's, still another year off developing or something like that. They're both, solid boys and exceptionally tall. Like Mills, I think they say there's maybe 1 or 2 centimetres between them, but Mills has to be bigger than Heaney because he was standing next to Membray and there was stuff all different sizes between them, and they've got Membray listed 188 centimetres. So he's going to be a big midfielder, Mills, and he's still only young. And same with Henny, he's a big midfielder as well, so that's going to be good. And they're exceptionally quick too, both of the boys. And as I said, they've got class, and to run around and get them sort of possessions at it is the NFL, but to get at senior level and not even look out of place and run around and rack up your 20s and Mills last week of your 40s is really impressive. And you could just tell they're going to be very good players. I don't care what people say. If AFL steps up, you can just tell that they're going to be good players. They didn't look out of place. They look just as good as Mitchell, if not better. So Mitchell's played AFL footy. So no, they were really good. That's about it. They got up by a point. Good comeback, and everyone sort of stood up in that game. And even Hitchcock, he probably should have had 5 goals. He ran into two open goals and sort of shanked him. But his leg speed and that, I think they might rookie list him. He was good, and so was Robinson. So that was a good outing by the boys.
At the moment, actually, Hiscock's on a few Phantom drafts, and from a few recruiters, he's shaping as a 3rd to 4th round selection. He's actually pretty highly rated by a couple of clubs now. So
he's really, really quick. They played him off a wing yesterday, and you can hardly catch him.
There's actually been a few talks that if he goes to the draft camp, he may stand a chance of matching Stephen Hill's record over 20 metres. That's how bloody quick he is.
He's really quick, and I think he's, from what I've heard on the board, he's a bit of an endurance runner too. So
to put things in perspective for some of the people who are listening, Stephen Hill is got tested faster over 20 metres than Gary Rowan or Lewis Jetta from our club. If Hiscox is as fast as some people are saying he is,
we should put a bid in. We have to match if that's the case, because Stephen Hill,
I'm not saying that they're similar players. Stephen Hill would have a bit more agility than Hiscox, and not to mention Stephen Hill's vertical jump, I think, is still the AFL record, actually, in draft camp testing, but he's kind of a ridiculous athlete. But this really gives a really good hindsight as to how well we're going through the academy right now. I mean, Eddie Maguire would be absolutely fuming, especially on the weekend with Jono Freeman 4 goals against Collingwood.
He had. They asked him tonight. Johnny Ralph said, "What about Jono Freeman?" And he said, "Shut up." He didn't want to hear about it, so didn't say anything about the academies. He just didn't want to be reminded of it.
Now I want
just a quick question, Punts. With Heaney and Mills, what first? This is a two-part question. First of all, how are they both for pace? And second of all, what player would you say they both resemble to a current day AFL player? Would you say like a Pendlebury or David Swallow, like those type of players, or another player on our list?
It's sort of hard to make the call because, when you say champions like Pendlebury, people say you're an idiot, blah, blah, blah. But if I agree with some who say Heaney's a lot like Swallow. He can kick. He pretty much runs the same. You saw, that hunchback sort of running style, and they can kick on both sides. Very classy. I know Swallow took a few years to get going, but this year he's really stood up. So I can say they're sort of he's sort of that sort of player with a big build. He's got big, broad shoulders, and just, as I said, physically ready to go. And they're both, as I said, very quick on the outside, and they both can play inside, which is good too. They're not scared about getting the hard ball, and especially, actually, you could say that about both boys. They love tackling. Mills exceptionally loves getting in there and tackling, and he uses it very good and he can use it on the outside as well. So they're sort of rare players. Sometimes you can get your insiders and your outsiders, but both boys are exceptional using it on the outside and inside. And with Mills, he just he's a really good. But both boys actually have really good overhead marks too for their size. I'm not blowing steam up them, but they're going to be. I'd be surprised if they weren't, not superstars, but I'd be surprised they weren't very good. If they didn't become very good AFL players, because to stand out like they have at, I know Division 2, but to stand out like they did yesterday in the seniors with senior, guys, and the way they played, they didn't look out of place at all. You could, they look like they've been playing there for a year or so or whatever. So I could go on and say that you could play. Both of them could probably play senior football next year, and that's even Mills, and he's a year younger. They just look, they're going to be good pickups, and I think Sydney will do everything to get them. So whether they have to give up 2 picks, 3 picks, they might argue the point to start with, but they will give it up.
Yeah. So they are pretty pacey. They're not
pacey. Both boys are pretty pacey. They're not slug boxes. So as I said, they get on the outside.
Good. So they're not Tom Mitchell slow.
Nah, nothing. Nah, I know Tom Mitchell is. That's probably the only thing he lacks. Is a little bit of class, and he's obviously leg speed, but I guess he's just not that sort of player. At the end of the day, he gets it out to them sort of guys. But Heaney and Mills, as I said, Heaney played a lot on the ball yesterday. Mills was sort of off a wing and then went into the middle a little bit. But Heaney would just break away from the packs and. Not Dangerfield like, nothing like that, but they both have got really good pace, which is what Sydney sort of needed, coming in. Or that's,
definitely.
In my opinion, anyway, is what Sydney need in the midfield.
Now, Punts, I need to talk to you actually just about Kennedy, and obviously he probably won't be played this week, even if it is just hamstring tightness. Do you believe that Tom Mitchell right now, he's played a half, a 3/4, and now a full game in a reserves? Do you think his fitness base is adjusted enough for AFL, or do you reckon he's still another week or 2 off?
No, I don't think he'll be fit enough for AFL, but I don't think Sydney have got a choice. As you said, he's played a half, 3/4, and a full game now. He might have been blowing a bit yesterday, but have they really got a choice now? I don't think they do. I think they're going to have to play him. They probably would have liked to get him, another week in the knee full, another at least another full game, and then maybe up for selection then. But to be honest with you, he racked up 28 possessions yesterday and was probably best on. So another week of that, he probably would have started warranting for a call up. So I know, or just getting at the selection table anyway. Whether he would have got a game or not, it's probably another thing if they had a full list. So, but they really don't have a choice. I know people are throwing up Ryan O'Keefe, but again, I watched him again yesterday, and I hate saying it because everyone, he's such a legend, but he's done. Like Hunt played on him yesterday, and even Hunt, I think, done at AFL level. Hunt from GWS, and Hunt was out marking him, pushing him under the ball, ran off him with ease, outbodied him, and once somebody's running off O'Keefe might as well stop in his tracks because he ain't going to catch much. So, and Hunt's not the fastest bloke going around either, and Hunt, outbodied him, ran off him, and just I can't see if he did, I'd be going down the line to say he's been gifted the game if he played this week.
Yeah.
Definitely not form warranted.
I'd be more averse to say give O'Keefe a game in the last round if we're going to give him a game. And I'm not one to give a farewell game, but when we did play him at the start of the season, he was playing Jude Bolton's role last year, which was on the half forward flank, which he struggled. So, no, I don't think he could play a full game in the middle.
And that's another thing about Tom Mitchell too. I think if he plays this week in the seniors, he has to play majority of the time on the ball because he's not a half-forward flanker. If they bring him in just to play off the half-forward line, I think that's ridiculous because, again, Tom really doesn't have a hell of a lot of pace and defensive pressure. He's a really good tackler in and close in a congested game, but not in he has to be in the middle, getting the ball out like Kennedy, etc. So, whether they do it or not. Hewitt's another one, but didn't play on the weekend for some reason. He's another one that can play inside as well.
He's the emergency.
He gets a hell of a lot of contested and clearances. But whether they want to debut, he's only a real young fella, Hewitt. So whether they want to go down that path, I don't know.
What about Zach Jones?
Yeah, Zach played all right off the halfback flank yesterday, but he wasn't in the best again. Whether they're going to bring in another defender or not, they've already got a few that they might have to make decisions on with Laidler this week. And, Biggs, I don't know how many defenders they want to bring in. They say push Biggs up to the wing or something like that. I really don't know.
Could Zach Jones play as in the Kennedy role?
No. No. He's been developing off halfback flank in the two. So to throw him in the middle at AFL level in his third or fourth game would be a big step up. I think it'd be more like Mitchell that's played AFL football before.
Now, looking forward to the Western Bulldogs game this weekend, Punts, and everybody. We may as well start moving on now. What ins and outs do we actually see happening? Longmire said McGlynn probably won't come back from an apparent back injury for another week, so it looks like he won't be back until the Richmond game. So, and obviously it looks like we've got Kennedy out. I'm not sure if we'll bring Shaw in, actually, unless we perhaps move Biggs up to the wing, but a little unlikely, and I think we are probably going to move Towers on. So it looks like Towers and Kennedy will be out. What ins do you guys see happening? Swansrule100.
I guess it depends who's fit. Like, is Shaw fit? Is Smith fit? I thought I heard someone say Smith, McGlynn both were out. Or was it just McGlynn was the most likely not to play, something like that? So I'd like to see Smith back in the side as quick as possible, and maybe you could bring Shaw in and put Biggs in the midfield. But I really like Biggs, so I'd like him to stay in. But I know Shaw's going to eventually get that spot back more than likely. So I guess Mitchell's the swap for Kennedy, as we were sort of talking about before. Towers comes out for mine, and for Smith or Shaw probably. But, I could imagine him playing Kennedy anyway if he's fit. So we'll see. If I could get Reed back and Membry in, I'd probably think about that as well. But, yeah, it's hard to say this early in the week. Need to see the Matt Cameron's report, I guess, to get all the facts. What about you, Bonz?
Look, in all honesty, Hewitt didn't play on the weekend. He was an emergency going into the match, and I was just worried about a few players coming up. So that was the reason why Hewitt wasn't lining up in the reserves. So it isn't an injury issue, so you never know. He still may actually be next in line for selection in regards to Kennedy, but they're not really like-for-like players. Hewitt's a bit more outside and would almost be a Jake Lloyd replacement, if anything, and that isn't going to happen. So I think I have to agree with what Punts was saying. Mitchell will probably be the most likely one in. I'm And I think Towers for Smith, but I think Biggs' performance on the weekend, and this is going to maybe anger a few people on here and around the board. Look, if Biggs is going to perform like that, I don't have a spot for Shaw inside at the moment.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, but I thought, be held out of the room. But I think
I'm
Biggs is a way better kick than Shaw.
They
Shaw
can
doesn't
attack
take
me
the
all they
game on,
want.
but-
Look, I would possibly bring Shaw in, keep Biggs in the side. Let's see, because what Shaw traditionally does is have a poor first up game, and then has a good second game. So do we want him firing for the finals? But of course we do have round 23. But so we've got options there with Shaw. We know he's going to have a poor first game back. My that's my fear. So
Sure, though, I thought his form before he got injured was starting to drop off anyway.
Yeah, in all honesty, I don't think there is... You can't fit Smith, Rowan, Rampy, Laidler, all these defenders in the side. Laidler does not deserve to get dropped after the last few weeks. He does not deserve to get dropped. There is no... It's either Biggs or Shaw right now, and that's not even talking about Smith somehow fitting into the side as well, and he has to come in.
And Biggs to me is the only one who could go play on the wing or something. Shaw couldn't go play in the middle.
I'm like Kennedy obviously out with Towers, and then I would never go more than 2 outs at any one time. So then that would bring in Mitchell and Smith. And if you're going to bring Shaw in, he has to come in round 23, and then you make your decision on who you want for your first up.
Look, right now, if we're going to be naming our best 22, I don't have Shaw in it. I'm sorry, I think Biggs is a better footballer than Shaw, and I think Punts agrees with me here.
Yeah, I know. I'll bring it up numerous times during the year and got held down for it. I know they apparently love his leadership, but I thought Shaw was on his way out at the end of last year. Just, he seems to be in the bigger games. He might rack him up against... not so good opposition, but in the bigger games, I think he gets a little bit under pressure and starts bombing away a bit too much and turns over the ball. Not that nobody else does it in the whole team, but I really like Biggs. As I said, he turned over a couple of times yesterday, but to come in after being in the knee full and get 25 possessions off the halfback flank, how can you drop? It's going to be pretty shit house to drop, but it just seems to be the way they sort of go. Like they highly rate Shaw, obviously, and he probably will come straight back in. I can't see how he misses. So
yeah, but there's turning it over.
We can't have too many defenders. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like
turning it over.
They always play 7 defenders, Sydney, so they're not going to go playing 8 and 9. So people are calling for Jones to come in and Smith and all these players. They're not going to. It won't happen. They'll stick with their 7 defenders and what they think is going to look like going to finals. So as harsh
Smith
as it is,
it
probably will be Biggs and Laidler that miss out for Smith and Shaw.
Okay, I'm going to put my mouth where it is at the moment. I reckon Shaw doesn't come back into the side. I reckon if we're playing finals and they're picking our best 22, they're not going to pick Shaw. Now, Laidler will go. Rowan's got his role pretty well done at the moment, depending on what team we're playing. And that's really tight on Laidler, because if we go on, play, get far in the finals, make a grand final, and Laidler doesn't play, he can feel himself hard done by. But I don't reckon Shaw deserves a spot.
Oh, see, my thinking here is Rowan is playing off the half back, but he's not playing as one of the flankers. He's playing a bit more deeper.
Well, so you can't fit.
You've got Biggs/Shaw playing one flank. You've got Melchesky on the other. You've got obviously Grundy and Richards as the 2 key positions. So that's 4. You've got Laidler, that's 6. Smith, that's 7.
You're forgetting Rampy.
Rowan can play off the bench in a different role. So that's 8. So that makes it a difficult choice. You know that Biggs is in a difficult position because of Shaw.
That's the reason why I'm saying Shaw won't make the team. They rate Biggs. Yeah. You heard what Longmire said about Biggs after the game. They've got articles about him on the Swans website. They've finally been able to elevate him from the list and look at the game he's given us. No way. Shaw won't play.
I think what they're doing is it'll be out of Shaw and Biggs. I think they'll have Smith come back for obvious
Layla out.
reasons. But Rowan's not playing. Rowan's not in a competitive role on one for Biggs. He's in a different role.
No, Rowan is in.
Rowan's
I wasn't
kicked
saying
Laidler.
Rowan was in Biggs' role. I was
Yeah,
saying Rowan was in Laidler's role.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think the team has kind of changed since then. I think Laidler's come back. Obviously, came back for Smith, but what I think's happened now is that the team game plan has kind of changed. Rowan's added that extra dimension to the run out of the back line. So I think there'd be a bit of a reset to the game plan. Obviously, because what the game plan was when Smith was last there won't be the game plan we'll take in the finals. There'll be a change. Because you have
I think the back line they took into Essendon's what the back line they want for the finals. I think Smith's. I think Rowan's competing with Laidler, and I think Smith's obviously in there, which is what the back 6-7 they took into Essendon and were taken into Port Adelaide before Smith come out for Laidler is a 6 to 7 defenders they'll go with going into finals if fit.
And they'll be tough on Laidler because he has earned his role.
It's tough on Laidler and he's deserved his spot. But if we're aiming for a premiership, we're not aiming for sentiment here. And Rowan is best in Laidler's current position, as he can also add extra run as well and give us that extra option.
He can play the height and he can play the small. He can play the small and adds the pace.
Laidler doesn't
Laidler's
have a
not as
spot in
quick
the
as
team.
Rowan,
He'll
and
get.
He's not as good on the third tall as Rampy.
No,
So
that's what I was saying. He can play high as Laidler can. He can play small, which Laidler can, but he has that pace.
the defence is basically...
And that's the
Grundy,
reason why
Richards,
we're
Smith,
saying-
Malcheski, Rampy, and then you've got to choose between Laidler or Rowan, and I'd choose Rowan, and you've got to choose between Shaw and Biggs, and I'd choose Biggs. I'm with Bonz. Because Biggs is a better kick, he's quicker, arguably, and
he laid
he
6
gets more of the
tackles
ball.
on the weekend, so he can obviously tackle.
Yeah.
Like
Shaw's
Shaw
lost the
won't make.
pace, and he
I don't know who
kicks
posted
it up in
that.
the air.
If we're at full fitness right now going into grand final week, Shaw won't play, Laidler won't play, Smith will be in a team and Biggs.
Yeah.
Smith's
That'll
not the
be
first
our
pick.
defence.
I don't know. People forgetting Laidler and Rowan are the same size, height and weight. Everything's the same, but Rowan has him covered for leap, and Rowan's at the moment is playing. He's actually starting to intercept too. Rowan's the last few games has been intercepting just as much as Laidler did before Rowan was in the side. So really, they've added with Rowan coming in for Laidler. As I said, they're the same size, weight, height, everything. All Laidler really did was pretty much what Rowan was doing without coming across, helping out. Like pretty much every high ball that goes into the back line at the moment, Rowan's been able to come across and help out. But what you get with Rowan instead of Laidler, you're going to get a lot of dash. He's going to get to the ball quicker, and he's going to put on more defensive pressure when the ball's in there because of his leg speed. So you're sort of doubling up. You're getting when Rowan's not defending, he's attacking like he did on the weekend, and he's able to play a little bit smaller as well. Where not being harsh to Laidler, where he did get chopped up by Palopolo the other week, where Rowan might not have been chopped up by Palopolo. So you're taking their heights, their same height. They can both play tall. Rowan's got a extraordinary leap where he comes across and helps out, and he can play smaller. So if you were to pick them standing next to each other, at the moment they're going to probably pick Rowan, and that's the way they went 2 weeks ago, and that's what's probably in John Momai's plan. And if you can get some dash out of Rowan off the halfback flank and get him off the leash, and why Malcheski and these blokes are getting tagged, will just add to the team.
I have to
And if we're
agree
going
with
to
you
beat
here.
Hawthorn, who we have to win the flag, Rowan's up and about, he's going to run bloody rings around half of those guys and get it out of the back line quickly.
And
we need to move the ball quickly.
And I'm very worried about Laidler against the faster teams of the competition with his speed. In defence, if they isolate him against the small,
so yeah,
if they isolate Laidler against the small, it's going to be trouble.
Yep.
Yeah,
He's done his job. Like, credit to him. He made it hard, but that's the reality. He's a handy depth player.
Yeah. Look, anyways, let's look towards the Dogs game right now. Just before we could argue about the defence all week, I reckon. Now, look, the Dogs have got a pretty decent midfield that I think shouldn't be too much an issue. Just for a quick preview, I'm going to name a couple of Western Bulldogs players to each of you. I just want you guys to give me a one-word matchup or a sentence matchup for who will play or how we will cope with a Western Bulldogs player. Okay, starting with you, Swansrule. Liberatore.
Yep. Liberatore. Oh, geez. I'd almost say Bird. We forgot to talk about Bird being hurt too. But he'd probably go to Griffin. Look, no one tagging him hard. He's just a scrapper. Don't really rate him. I rate some of those younger guys a bit higher, like Bontempelli and all that. You wanted one word, didn't you?
Yeah, well, there you go. Small sentence. Okay, Punts. What do we do about Griffin?
Bird.
Oh, my God.
I like Bird.
Last two games, he's got 40-plus possessions. Absolutely tore us a new one. Port Adelaide have done the same with Gray. Still tears us a new one. Surely someone's got to go with him, but if Bird misses and McGlynn misses, well,
Cunningham?
he'll probably run free again.
What about Cunningham?
No, I think Cunningham will go to Murphy.
Okay.
Murphy's really their only drive out of that back line and the only one with really class. I could see Cunningham doing a defensive half-forward role on Murphy because he does set him up a lot going through the middle and he's run off the back line. I think is really the only one you need to stop.
Yeah, well, he got run down by bloody Petrie today. I think he was pretty shit today. But I know what you mean. He takes it down the guts every time he gets it.
Yeah,
they free him up.
Yeah.
Okay, Robbieando. Bontempelli.
Oh God, but where does he actually play? I see him at the forward line, so that's just give Dane Rampy the role.
Okay.
He's got the pace and he's got the height. That's the only matchup I can see.
Okay. Punts. Cramery.
Teddy Richards.
Okay, and who do you see going to Jared Grant then?
He'll get dropped.
He'll get dropped?
Yep.
Okay then. He's playing in the VFL. It is.
Who's playing on Campbell?
It'll be Grundy. Grundy took Campbell last time, and Teddy Richards took Jared Grant, I think, or was it Everett took Jared Grant last time? But I wouldn't be surprised if they bring in Jones. Apparently played well in the VFL, so they might even bring him in, and somebody might have to play tall, maybe a Rowan. You remember he got Stringer too, which is probably a perfect matchup for Rowan, pretty much the same height. They've both got a bit of leg speed, or Rampy, such and such, but they normally give Rampy the third tall role, so maybe Rampy might have to go to a Jones and play a bit taller. Yeah.
Okay,
They
now
kind of
we'll
play
go...
a bit like us. They like handball it a lot and tackle, do that sort of shit. They just haven't got anyone to kick to.
Yeah, they've got the midfield that can challenge us, but they haven't got the defence that will stop ours, and they haven't got the forward line that can contest. But they'll obviously what they'll try to do this week is try and stretch us. They'll probably bring in a lot of talls.
Yeah, I reckon we'll win by about 30. That'll be a
Yeah,
slog.
their back lines, besides Morris, and Murphy, their back line's really young with Roughhead, and I think they played Austin today. Like, they're real young back line, so, you'd probably presume, well, you'd want to hope that Tippett and Franklin and maybe Reid and Goods would, there'd be too much for the Doggies back line.
I actually think Roughhead's going to be a really good matchup for Tippett.
Yeah, I think he is too, but you can tell. I know McCartney said today they're starting to get a bit tired. He looked really tired today, Roughhead.
And they're coming off a short break as well against us, so...
Yeah. This would be the game that I would actually put Reid permanently in the back line for, just to see how he would cope.
Who is he going to play on in their back? They don't exactly have heaps of tall forwards unless they purposely try to stretch us, and I'm not sure they're going to do that.
Yeah, well, they're going to try and stretch us, but the thing is, we know what role we want. The club would know what role we want Reid to play. But this is the week we want to see, well, what happens if, say, a Grundy or a Richards went down 5 minutes into a grand final or a final? What happens if we had to change Reid's role and put him into it? So give him a full game in a set position in the defence and see what happens.
Worst idea, but there's no one to put him on next week, really, in the Dogs team.
Yeah, that's the thing. There is no one to put him on. So you
just want him to stand down there?
Yeah, stand down there, be the third man, even give him instead of giving Richards the roll on.
He's already playing a nothing role forward. No point doing it down back, is there? May as well drop
so
him.
instead of it's better. It's give him an idea of where he stands in the defence. Give him a task.
In all honesty, out of most teams in the competition, especially when we were commenting on Western Bulldogs' short defence, like quite young, it'd actually almost be ideal to have Reed up forward this weekend. Especially if we might have to move goods into the midfield a little bit more without Kennedy there. So
If we're actually going to rest Buddy 1 week, I'd do it this week.
Yeah.
Almost.
So Reed will probably play this weekend anyway. I reckon he'll be playing up forward. He won't be playing in defence this week. The Dogs don't have the tools to throw
this week. Rest him in the last round because any challenges he has for the Coleman would have played by then, so you'd know if he's won the Coleman or not.
But who cares about the Coleman?
Yeah, but it's something for him, so you'd know. You can make a late withdrawal for the Richmond game.
Let's not forget Buddy only has 40 games left, Dermot said, so we've got to manage him.
Yeah, you've got to manage him. Then that's a way of managing. You play him, you let him get his goals against the Bulldogs, if whatever he gets, then Hawthorn and Collingwood, Cloak's now out. So whoever is all these challenges basically played before him. So he goes into that last game. He could have he'd be crowned the Coleman medalist before the start of the game. So he'd be I don't even need to play. Rest him before the first. Give him a week off before the final.
Okay, look, anyways, we'll go on to our sure thing, worst nightmare, and tip for the weekend. Punts, what's your sure thing, worst nightmare, and tip?
Well, my sure thing is Griffin will be the highest possession getter on the ground. My worst nightmare, I say it every week, but we're 2 weeks out from finals and no more injuries, for fuck's sake. And my tip is I reckon we'll get up by 37 points, and no, I don't think it'll be much of a game. I think it'll be a bit of a shallow game.
Okay. Robbie?
Well, my sure thing for this week is that there'll be late withdrawals before the game. So that's my sure thing. My tip is the Swans will win by about 30 odd points, mainly because we don't know the mix of the team, so it's hard to say what will happen.
Okay, and your worst nightmare?
My nightmare, obviously, is again not his injuries. So yeah, just gonna knock on wood.
Copying Punts there a little as per usual.
Oh, well,
I'm joking around.
It's obvious because we're just seeing what basically the whole thread on Bigfooty during the game was once Kennedy got injured, it was basically a freak out on the game day thread.
Okay, so, now, Robbieando, your sure thing, worst nightmare and final tip?
You mean me?
Yeah, Swans roll.
Well, geez, my sure thing is I'll go day for day with Ryan O'Keefe in September and give that 30 days a crack. My worst nightmare is that they interview Brendan McCartney post-match and zoom in on that growth on his nose because it freaks me out every time I see it. I don't want to scratch it off.
Oh, you're the only one who notices that as well.
Okay.
We'll win by 25, and as Punts said, it'll be a routine victory and mean stuff all and move on to Richmond.
Okay, my sure thing for this weekend, Tippett to kick 5. My worst nightmare, Buddy to kick only 3. My final tip, the Swans by 46 points in a match that'll blow out a little in the last quarter. Look, one last thing before we wrap it up tonight. Just want to give a nice round applause to the great man LRT for a fantastic career with the Swans. 2 premierships, 1 Rob Norm Smith medal, and several fantastic blonde hair flapping moments. Well done, LRT. Thank you very much. Anyways, guys, you've been listening to this week's edition of the Swans Bigfooty Podcast. Thank you very much and good night.